Hey everybody, welcome back. In this episode of the Ski Bum Surf Guide, we're going to be talking about the northern region of Nicaragua. There's a famous wave here called the boom. And a lot of people don't know that there are also about a dozen other really good waves in a 7-mile radius. And they can all be reached within a relatively short time from the area near the boom, which is known as Aserradores or Apacentillo, Santa Maria del Mar, Nahualapa, etc. Okay, this is the El Viejo region of Chinandega, and to get here you're gonna have to fly to Managua, or you're gonna have to come from Guatemala or El Salvador in the north. The easiest way is to fly into Managua and get a taxi or transport to the El Viejo region. A taxi's probably gonna run you anywhere from $120 to $150. It's about a 3-hour ride if there's not traffic, okay? So, what you need to know about this region is it's not the same as southern Nicaragua, okay? The Chinandega region is an agricultural region. It's very hot. It's very humid. I don't say this lightly. Here in Nicaragua, in the south especially, I don't really use AC. But in the north, before I stay in the north, I always make sure that where I'm staying has AC, because it's so hot and it's so humid. There are days here that are regularly 115 to 120 heat index, especially in the dry season, but also in the wet season. You can count on it being one of the hottest places you've ever been in Central America. Moreover, at night, it does not cool down very much. And so when you're dehydrated from surfing all day and you're trying to rest so you can surf tomorrow, it's really hard if you don't have AC to recover. Okay, so you need to be mindful of that before you come to Chinandega, to El Viejo, to Aserradores, to Apacentillo, to Nahualapa to surf, because yeah, it's gonna be sweaty, okay? So now that we've covered that, we need to talk about the winds. Nicaragua is known for having consistent offshore winds. And yes, there are plenty of times that this region will have consistent offshore winds. Especially during the dry season, it seems like the winds are a little bit higher, the swell is a little bit smaller, the waves are a little bit cleaner on the regular basis. In the wet season, you're gonna have regular storms that come through, you're gonna have regular onshores by midday, sometimes even in the morning, especially if there's a storm. And so this means that it's not gonna be as clean and perfect as southern Nicaragua. But the one caveat of this is that it's way less crowded, with the exception of the boom or Nahualapa. The boom and Nahualapa are both usually pretty crowded. So now we're gonna get into the waves. And as you can see here, I got the map up. You're gonna see that there are a lot of waves here, okay? And they all pretty much work from mid to high tide, with the exception of Mareas Negras, which is the first wave we're gonna talk about. Mareas Negras is pretty much a boat-only wave. There's an estero here, a river mouth, and a beach break. They can work from low to mid-tide, especially if there's a good little swell. And you have to get there by taking a boat from Aserradores. So what this means is Mareas Negras is never going to be crowded, but it's always going to take a little effort to get there. Okay? It's a beach break. There's a river mouth. It's pretty peaky. It's not as hollow as the boom, but the overall hollowness, I would say, is like a 5 or a 6. It can be playful a little bit as the tide comes in, but at low tide, there's going to be lots of little peaky barrels here. Once again, it's not like a super shore breaky barrel like the boom, but it's a place where you could probably surf with just whoever you come in with on the boat. It's really cool to see. It's a nature preserve. It's beautiful, okay? The next wave up after Mareas Negras is going to be called the island. The island is something that the surf camps promote. You also have to go to the island on a boat from Aserradores. So that means if you're staying at a surf camp, you travel from your surf camp to Aserradores, and then from the fishing village, you travel to the island, okay? The island's a left-hand point break. It's pretty playful. It's pretty fun. It needs a little bit of swell to really start going. There's an inside section and there's an outside section. The inside section, it can be a little bit rocky, and really far on the outside of the outside section can also be a little bit rocky. So if you're not comfortable with rocky surf, the island is probably not for you. But that being said, if you're comfortable with a little bit of flat rocks and a little bit of places to avoid, some boils and stuff, you will really have a good time at the island, especially when there's a little swell. All right, so the next wave we're going to talk about is right out in front of Chancletes Beach Resort. It's a famous resort. It's always going to be packed in the wet season or the dry season. It's a great place to stay. It's kind of expensive, but it's very nice. It's very fancy, and the thing is, it's right at the peak on the boom. You can walk right out from Chancletes, and you can surf the boom every day. The boom mostly works from mid to high tide, but every now and then with some swell in the wet season, you can catch the boom working at low tide. Okay, what you need to know about the boom is the boom is going to be crowded every day. Okay, even on good days at the boom, there's going to be lots of closeouts. It's a very shore breaky, closed out wave where you have to find the shoulder. Wave knowledge is everything, and it's always going to be extremely competitive. That being said, at the boom, you can get the barrel of your life. And believe it or not, it's actually a pretty easy wave to make a barrel once you kind of get it wired a little bit and realize what waves are going to close out and what waves are not going to close out. It's really easy to get in and get out and kick out compared to a lot of other waves, like even Colorado's or Santana. I feel like the boom is actually kind of a little easier to surf than even Colorado's or Santana. And that's because it is very hollow. You're going to take your beat downs there, just like any hollow shore break. But due to the shape of the wave, when the wave is really working, it's really easy to get into that shoulder, pull in, kind of drag or slow down a little bit, get your barrel, and then kick out, come out, and kick out. And that's why you see it all over Instagram all the time. But what you really need to be mindful of is the fact that a lot of the waves that you're going to see on Instagram, just like what we know about Instagram is mostly fake. It doesn't give an accurate representation of the place. I've been there where it's just been solid closeouts for 2 hours, 30 people on one peak, and maybe one guy makes one barrel the whole time. And that's just a reality that you have to deal with if you're going to surf the boom. All right, so after the boom, moving north, in this region, in the El Viejo Chinandega region, you're going to have Apacentillo, Playa Apacentillo. There's a little point at the end of the boom, at the end of the beach that is the boom, and Aserradores. You're going to come around that point, and that's where you're going to have Playa Apacentillo. And Playa Apacentillo, the top is where Thunderbomb Surf Camp is, and there's a little wave up top there. I've never surfed it, but I have seen it breaking. It looks like it could be pretty fun. It looks like it's mostly a left, works mostly at high tide. It's kind of a reef there. It doesn't always work, but I have seen it with some swell working. When you come around that point from that reef, there's an inside sheltered cove in there, and that cove is going to be where there's a lot of longboarders, a lot of beginners, and on bigger days, when it's really walled up in the area, a lot of people are going to come and surf that spot because it's going to be the most open. The waves are going to be the most open. I surfed there on like a 22-second swell not too long ago, and it wasn't great, but I'm telling you, everything except a couple of the point breaks in the region was closed out, but you could still find some little fun, makeable corners without too many consequences at Punta Apacentillo, which is what they call that little inside cove section at Apacentillo. It's a really fun wave. You're going to see surf camps there pretty much every day now. The Amaru surf camp is going to be there. Al Marabu is going to be there. Rise Up Surf is going to be there. And probably some people from Thundergom are going to be there. It's not uncrowded. That part of Apacentillo is probably one of the most crowded areas besides the Boom and Nahalapa in this region. But here's the caveat for this area, because Apacentillo is actually about 1 kilometer long, and as it goes towards the next beach, which is called Santa Maria del Mar, you're going to find a little bit better, a little bit peakier, a little bit more hollow waves, and you're going to find tons of beach break to yourself on a daily basis. And this beach break can also handle the swell. In fact, it likes a lot of swell. When I was just here for a month, I spent a lot of time between the northern end of Apacentillo and the southern end of Playa Santa Maria del Mar. There's some Airbnbs in this region. Beach access is kind of weird. You kind of need to go to Apacentillo and then walk in from Apacentillo because there's a public road that goes on there. In Playa Santa Maria del Mar, there's a lot of private houses and private Airbnbs, and they're like, for all intents and purposes, they have little private beaches in front of them. Not that you can't go to those beaches, but you're going to need to access those beaches from Apacentillo and walk into Playa Santa Maria del Mar. But I'm telling you, the waves here are really fun. When you have like a stiff offshore wind, you're going to have like a dozen, maybe even little peaks between the northern end of Apacentillo and all through Santa Maria del Mar. And some of them are going to barrel. People affectionately call this the baby boom because the waves are always a little smaller than the boom, but they're also, in my opinion, a little bit more makeable on a regular basis and a little bit more like what I would consider like fun waves. An intermediate who's not comfortable in heavy water is not usually going to have too many good days at the boom. But if you're in northern Apacentillo or in southern Santa Maria del Mar, you can have a good time. You can get a lot of waves here. So I highly recommend the northern end of Apacentillo and the southern part of Santa Maria del Mar. Okay, so as we're going up from Apacentillo and Santa Maria del Mar, there's kind of another little area that doesn't really have much waves, but then you come into Nahalapa Bay. And Nahalapa Bay is really special because Nicaragua doesn't have very many like longboardy areas. But that area is great for fun shapes and longboards. And so what I mean by this is at the southern end of Nahalapa Bay, you have a left point break. It's called El Coco Loco. Okay, this is where Rise Up Surf is located, and the inside section is a beach break called Los Clavos. And it's also very mellow, very fun for beginners and intermediates. Rise Up Surf Camp will be there a lot. Coco Loco will usually have 3 to 5 people surfing it, but not that many. So this is a really good area to go if you're an intermediate, if you're a beginner looking to improve, or even if you're just an advanced surfer looking to just have fun. You'll really enjoy Coco Loco and Los Clavos. And as you move in from that area, you're going to move into Nahalapa Bay. And Nahalapa Bay is really special because it's probably one of the premier longboarding waves in Nicaragua. During the dry season, you're going to have perfect little peaks. It picks up the swell. It's not too barrely, but it's very peaky, and the waves can actually break a long way. And so Nahalapa Bay is awesome. And there's a place there called Tapas and Surf that has little cabins where you can stay. They don't have kitchens, but they have a really good restaurant that has awesome Spanish, like tapas style food. It's amazing. There's totally like a longboarding scene there. The people there are really friendly. It's the kind of place where you can get a lot of waves. And in the wet season, now in the wet season and a bigger swell, it can get really walled up. But on the north end of Nahalapa Bay, there's a little right point break that can really just go off. And that's kind of special because Nicaragua doesn't have that many right-hand point breaks. And so if you want to go to Nahalapa Bay, and even if you're a shortboarder, you'll really enjoy this right-hand point break during the wet season when there's a little bit more wind And like most everything else in the area, you know, mid to high tide is kind of your go-to. Low tide just kind of doesn't really work that much up here, with the exception of Maderas Negras and sometimes the boom. The final little breaks in this area are the other side of Nahualapa Bay, and they're very seldom surfed. There's a series of rock reefs in here. One of them's called Rocky Point. If you go there, you have to cross a river. You can only really cross it at low tide, so you just need to be mindful of that. The breaks kind of prefer more like mid tide, so that's one of the reasons this area is not super surfed. I do expect, though, in the future that they're going to be developing this area a lot more, and there will probably be a lot of surfers who end up coming there. The area on the map is called Manzana Numero Dos, and there's a couple Airbnbs that you can stay there. I think there's a hotel. So if you're kind of a more adventurous surfer, check it out. You'll have fun there. Rocky Point definitely has some cool little waves. The right is kind of closed out and kind of on some rocks, but you can get barreled there. The left is a little more open, and you have a little more less chance of hitting the rocks, like most waves in Nicaragua. The bonus wave for this region is actually the first wave that put Northern Nicaragua on the map, and it's not the boom. It's called Jiquillo, Jiquilla. Yeah, something like that. It's on this little map I got for you. And up there, it needs a little bit more swell. The wind's a lot more of a factor, but it's kind of a mix between Apacentillo, the northern end of Apacentillo, and the boom. It's really fun. It can be really heavy. There can be some gnarly currents. There's a lot of water moving. It's hotter than the devil's armpit. So, I hope you really enjoyed this guide to the Northern Nicaragua region. It's a really untapped region of Nicaragua still, other than the boom and Nahualapa. There's a lot of waves that go unridden here on a daily basis. And I'm telling you, there are more waves up here to be discovered. This region is just starting to develop. In 20 years, it's probably going to be as busy as Popoyo. It really reminds me of what Popoyo was like 20 years ago. And I'm not bad-mouthing it. It's a great place to stay, but you want AC. I don't even like AC, but you want AC in Chinandega region. You will thank me later. You want it. Thanks everybody for watching. This is the Ski Bum Surf Guide. I'm Eric. I run this channel. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope we have a good day. Pura vida.